Now for today's rider tip, we've got a nice simple one called race changes, which is plain and simply doing your gear changes without backing off. Now typically when riders first learn how to ride and they start changing gears, most of them tend to, instead of holding the power on, they give it a bit of gas, back off to make the gear change and then back on the gas again. That's the main part with race changes. We don't want to back off in between our gear changes. We want to hold the throttle nice and constant, and it has a completely different note to the bike. It takes away that pause where all of a sudden the bike's not driving anymore and then has to get going again, and that's why we call it race changes. Now in a race situation, there's a lot of time to be made up by doing these race changes. Doesn't matter what part of the track you're on. However, the majority of the time that you're going to make up with race changes is when you jump out of that gate and head into that first turn. By doing these race changes, you'll make up a lot of time instead of backing off in between. Now, as I mentioned earlier, when you first start learning how to ride, it's very natural to actually back off, change gears and gas it again. Now, in actual fact, what that does is it makes the bike react a little bit jerky and definitely not smooth. Now, that is one of the main downfalls, but without a doubt, the main downfall is the speed factor. It's so much slower to back off, change gears, get back on the gas again. So by race changing, not only is it smoother for the bike, but obviously we make up a lot of time out there on the track. The best way to practice it, don't even start your bike up, get it set up on a nice stand and try some of your race changes without the bike even going. What we first of all need to do is to get that throttle up to about half throttle and hold it there nice and still. Then what we need to do is we need to coordinate two things at the same time. We need to give our clutch a little bit of a slip and we need to lift up our gear change at identical times, and that'll slot the gear in nicely. So what's really critical here is making sure that you're spot on with your timing, with your clutch slip and the gear change. It has to happen at the exact same time for that gear to slot straight in nice and easy. And once you're comfortable with your race changes without the bike even running, it's time to start the bike up and give it a little bit of a go out in the paddock. Take it nice and easy to start with. I know race changes are designed around going flat out on a racetrack, but to learn how to do it, you don't need to be going flat out. As far as the mechanical side of things, don't have it in the back of your mind, race changes, not backing off when I'm supposed to is going to cause grief to your bike. Promise you, you won't do any damage to your gearbox or your clutch by doing race changes. In actual fact, it sometimes can slide in a little bit smoother. Now, like we mentioned earlier, yes, it is a simple tip, but if you don't practice it, you've got no chance of getting it under your belt. And when you do get it accomplished properly, you'll be having faster lap times and be a lot smoother on the bike also. Good luck with those race changes. We'll see you next time.